Things are going from bad to worse for the state government. Dominic Perrottet has lost his second minister this week, with Stuart Ayres resigning from cabinet this morning. He quit after a review into John Barilaro's controversial appointment to a plum overseas trade role. State political reporter Ashleigh Raper begins our coverage.
Just last week, they were side by side on the world stage. But back on home soil, the situation has changed dramatically.
Late last night, Minister Stuart Ayres informed me that he would resign from his ministerial positions and as Deputy Leader of the New South Wales Parliamentary Liberal Party.
The Trade Minister was forced to go after the Premier was handed part of an internal review into John Barilaro's controversial appointment to a Trade Commissioner role in New York. Stuart Ayres had insisted the recruitment process was done at arm's length from the government.
It's very clear from the excerpts that I have seen of the review that the process was not at arm's length.
The review has also raised concerns that the Penrith MP may have breached the ministerial code of conduct.
The advice I've received is in relation to engagement with the Department Secretary in respect of influence on the decision-making process.
Mr Ayres released a statement denying that. In my view, no such breach has occurred. I have always applied the highest levels of integrity in my conduct as a minister. His resignation was announced on the same day the department's secretary, mentioned in the review, gave evidence to a parliamentary inquiry for a second time.
Did you feel like Minister Ayres was keeping himself arm's length from this process?
I would say that, objectively speaking, arm's length is not a fair characterisation of how the process was run. In my view, he was not arm's length from the process.
Mr Ayres plans to stay on as an MP, and there will now be another internal review to determine whether he breached the ministerial code.
Has he lied to you when you've asked him things?
I do not believe so, no.
Mr Ayres is the second cabinet casualty in 4 days. The Fair Trading Minister, Eleni Patinos, was sacked on Sunday over workplace bullying, allegations she denies. Throughout the John Barilaro controversy, the government has been under fire over transparency and integrity. Yet, when two ministers have been dumped from cabinet, the Premier has refused to give the details of exactly what made their positions untenable.
They've been taking the public for a ride for the last 7 weeks. You've got to be upfront with the people of New South Wales.
If there has been a breach of the ministerial code, it could go to the corruption watchdog. Ashleigh Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
Stuart Ayres might be gone, but the parliamentary inquiry into John Barilaro's appointment is still going. Today, the inquiry heard that Mr Ayres was consulted as an informal referee during the selection process.
Investment New South Wales boss Amy Brown had to wait a little longer to give evidence this morning.
Today's hearing will be commencing at 10:30am instead of 10am due to today's developments.
With Stuart Ayres' shadow hanging over the proceedings all day.
We were discussing a conversation that you had with Minister Ayres.
Amy Brown told the inquiry there were various intersection points between Mr Ayres and herself when it came to appointing trade commissioners.
I gave him a heads up that Mr Barilaro had indeed applied.
The Minister, did he volunteer the positive attributes of John Barilaro's candidacy to you unsolicited?
It was more of a back and forth conversation, and he said, I think he could be quite good.
Ms Brown was asked about a selection report compiled by NGS Recruiting, which showed a female candidate exceeding on more criteria than John Barilaro.
Genuinely, I'm under oath, it was so inaccurate. Like, I did not feel that the panel discussion reflected that the female candidate exceeded on all criteria.
Amy Brown told the hearing she asked for a revised report after consulting with formal and informal referees.
Obvious question is, who were the informal referees?
I was certainly referring to Minister Ayres.
The final report was more favourable to John Barilaro. The inquiry heard it was not signed by selection panel members until 5 days after he had signed a contract for the job.
Would have certainly heightened the consequences of their refusal.
It was not ideal.
Mr Barilaro withdrew from the position in late June. Ms Brown defended both round 1 and round 2 of the recruitment process. Today, she denied telling former candidate Jenny West that the job would be a present for someone when her offer was rescinded. She concluded by rebuffing a suggestion that the selection had been rigged, emphatically stating that her reports reflected the reality of the recruitment process. Cecilia O'Connell, ABC News, Sydney.